You're listening to Radio Kidnappers, the voice of Hawke's Bay. This is a program called Food for Life, and it's our pleasure, as always, to have in the studio Heather Barrow. How you going, Heather?
I'm doing good, Ken. How are you?
Oh, good. Can you believe half a year has gone?
I can't, actually. July. It is hard to believe. It's going very quickly.
Indeed. Now, today we're here to talk about you, really. It's what do clinical nutritionists do? What do you do?
Yeah, I thought it would be a good topic for the show because I think, there's some confusion around nutritionists, dietitians, and what we do. So sometimes I even get emails asking, what are your services? What exactly do you do? Or I have this issue. Can you help with this? I wasn't sure. So I just thought, let's talk about it this morning. So clinical nutritionist. So first of all, clinical. If you're a clinical nutritionist, oftentimes that means you work in a clinic. So most nutritionists are self-employed. Sometimes they go into practice with someone else, so maybe an osteopath or a massage therapist or some health practitioner. They might have a joint practice. Mm-hmm. A lot of nutritionists in Hawke's Bay are in their own practice, so they have a clinic. So really that just means it's an office where they have one-on-one consultations in a clinical setting.
Okay. Clinical nutritionist sounds good. It sounds very professional, but can anyone hang up a shingle and call themselves a clinical nutritionist, or do you have to be qualified? Do you have to have a bit of paper hanging up which says Heather Barrow is a great clinical nutritionist?
Yeah, that's a good question. So in New Zealand, it is regulated, and anyone can, I think, call themselves a nutritionist nowadays if they do one of those online courses. Become a nutritionist in 12 weeks. Yeah. Which is completely ridiculous, or a health coach. I'm sorry, maybe they call it a health coach. But really, you want to see a registered clinical nutritionist. So the governing body in New Zealand is the Clinical Nutrition Association. So that is where nutritionists like myself, upon graduation, they will go to their governing body and apply to be registered. Yeah.
Is it a one-off thing, or do you have to keep yourself up to speed? I mean, is the industry changing all the time that you need to keep up with whatever you keep up with?
Absolutely. Yeah. And the governing body regulates us as well. So we have a requirement every year to undergo so many continuing education requirements. So I think it's 20 hours that we have to prove that we have continued our education. So that might mean that we've gone to a workshop, a seminar online, presentations, stuff like that. So we have to prove 20 hours to keep our registration.
What's the worst thing that could happen? So just say you were I hang up my shingle because I say everything in moderation, but let's turn that into something that can make a business out of. What's the worst thing that could go wrong? I mean, what could I do to someone that would cause a problem?
You mean?
Well, like bad advice. What bad advice could I give them? I mean, presumably
as like a health coach.
Yeah. So.
Oh, yeah.
Or a nutritionist.
Well, that's part of what a clinical nutritionist does. Yeah. So our approach is holistic. So we're looking at the person, their body, their mind, their environment, their age. We spend a good hour plus with each person. So we are trying to gather all the information possible around all the body systems, around their current health, their background, their family history, their gut health, bowel health, digestive health. We look at their skin. Some people look at their eyes, which I studied as well. That's called iridology, sclerology. We look at the nails. We can do physical examinations as well, so have the client lie down and listen to the stomach and do some palpitations. If you see a health coach, it's going to be pretty generic.
Yes.
They're not going to, if they spend that amount of time with you, it's not going to be nearly the pointed questions that a clinical nutritionist would be asking.
So what sort of person is coming to see you?
What sort of person? Good question. So pretty much any kind of health condition that's not extremely serious. Like if someone comes through my door and says, I'm having chest pain, I would say, look, we can have a consultation, but I'm going to direct you right away to go see your doctor.
Yeah.
So I see mostly people with skin conditions, with hormonal issues, with gut issues. So it could be constipation, diarrhea, constant stomach pain, bloating, acne, rosacea, psoriasis, eczema, hormonal, wanting to lose weight is another big one.
Do you find that people come to see you as an alternative to traditional medicine? Are you seen as an alternative medical practitioner, although you're a clinical nutritionist? But do people come to see you for that reason, that they've had enough of the old Western side of it, the real doctors and whatnot?
Yes, definitely.
Why is that?
And more so. And I think because the message about health and diet is becoming a lot more prevalent. So, there's lots of TV shows about, getting healthy and boot camps and fitness and, shop for less is all about, trying to eat healthy as well. The message is coming across more. Workplaces are doing weight loss programs or dry Julys. I don't know. I just feel like there's more books about nutrition. You just see it more. So, I think that's why it's in people's faces more, and they're thinking about it more and thinking, well, actually, instead of going to see my doctor for a 10-minute appointment, and I know that because I've seen a doctor recently for my daughter, and it was literally 10 minutes, and he barely asked any questions, and I was in and out. So instead of something like that, maybe I should actually think about what's going in my mouth and go see a nutritionist, because maybe food is actually impacting this issue that I have.
Do you find all those programs that you mentioned, do you find it's a bit fatty? People sort of get on a bit of a bandwagon, have a bit of a kick around with it for a month or two, and then it's back to the way they were, and they end up worse because they've gone back to what they were and more.
Some people, definitely, but you get all walks of life. So some people, they just want a quick fix. They want it easy. They want me to hand it to them on a plate, wave my magic wand, and problem solved. And if that doesn't happen, which it won't, because it does take work on their part, they might give up. But a lot of people are committed and they want change, and they're at the end of their rope. They've been to doctors, they've been to whomever, other health practitioners, and they just want answers, and they want to get to the root cause.
We've talked about it many times, and I'm an old school guy because I'm old anyway, but is it not as simple as everything in moderation? 3 squares a day, bit of exercise, cut out a bit of sugar, cut out a bit of salt, don't drink too much. It sounds pretty simple to me. Is it not that simple?
Everything you said is just general good advice. And yes, for some people, that's fine. They can go through life just with that general guidelines, and they'll be fine. But fine, maybe they could be excellent, and they don't actually know it. So maybe, actually I could wake up and bounce out of bed and feel great throughout the day and think so clearly, and have the energy and be able to run this marathon that I didn't think I could. So I think you don't really know until you feel better. And then also some people think, they go through life with those general guidelines, but they still have a skin itch, or they knock it off, I'll just live with it.
All right, talk us through a consultation. So we decide, hey, look, something's not right with this. We come along, we're going to see Heather, and talk us through that holistic consultation that you do. Okay,
so I'm a detailed person. I like investigating. I've always loved it. I love crime shows. So my goal with you is to gather as much information, to pull as much information out of you as possible. So all that information are clues. They're identifications that are going to help me figure out what's going on inside the body, because obviously I can't see inside your body. I will, however, gather information if you've had an endoscopy or a colonoscopy, recent blood work done, stool testing. I'll always ask if there's anything else, please bring that with you, because that's already evidence that's been taken that I can gather and use. So what I'm first going to ask you is, please explain what's going on. Please explain your background, your concerns, what are your goals in seeing me? And then I'll just ask some lifestyle questions. So where are your stress levels? On a scale of 1 to 10, I'll give you a stress test to see if stress is impacting your body, because that's a big one, very big.
Yeah, just so I could butt in there, what are the stress level numbers 1 to 10? So, because from my point of view, there is a lot of stress out there. So when people come to see what they're saying, oh my God, it's a 9.
Yeah, so 1 low, 10 high. Yeah. Some people will say, I'm really, really stressed, and I give them a stress test, and they are. Yeah. And other people say, I have stress, but I deal with it, okay? And I give them a stress test, and stress is really impacting their body. So like I've done lots of shows on stress. It's not just that emotional stress. Like, got a baby at home, trying to work. My stress levels, are high at the moment.
Yes.
It's your environment too. Are there toxins? Do you live in a polluted place? Are you drinking a lot of coffee? Sometimes that can really stress the body for certain people. So there's a lot of stressors we don't think about.
No. And often we look at those stresses and say, well, it's an easy fix. But, I mean, like yourself, you're a new mother. And people say, oh, for goodness sakes, just a baby. But it's not that simple, is it?
That sounded like me before I had my baby. Like, come on.
That's right, it's just a baby.
You just have one baby.
So it's easy for someone looking in from the outside saying, yeah, get over yourself. But why isn't it that easy?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's different. We don't know their history, their background. Things can pile, Just the perception of stress creates stress. So, for instance, me knowing that I have emails of clients that I haven't answered from yesterday is a perceived stress to me.
Yeah.
So it's bombarded, technology.
Yeah. Which begs the question, here you are, you're a practitioner, you're telling us to de-stress and look after ourselves, and yet here you are stressed. People are saying, well, for goodness sakes, you're the guru. Why are you stressed? I mean, so why are you stressed? You're the guru.
Well, I have a baby, for one. She's 7 months old today, and she does still wake through the night a little bit. So, lack of sleep is another huge stressor some people struggle with, and I do have people see me for that. So that's one reason why I'm stressed at the moment. My husband's away, so I'm solo parenting at the moment. So there's all these different factors that come into play.
So what are some tips that you might be able to give someone, even when you look in the mirror, give yourself some advice? What bits of advice might be giving yourself or someone who is stressed just like you are?
Oh gosh, it really depends on what's going on. But I think finding time for yourself, and if I could throw a term out there, proper selfishness. So learning to say no to people, not being a people pleaser. Saying, actually, I have the afternoon off, but I've been asked to do this by a friend or the church, and saying, no, I'm actually really run down. I'm going to be properly selfish and say no, and spend some time for yourself. Maybe it's lying down reading a book. Maybe it's doing some yoga. Maybe it's taking a walk in nature. You need it, and I'm speaking to myself as I say it.
Yeah.
So
that's what you're going to do this Savo.
Well. So looking at stress levels, looking at your sleep, how well are you sleeping? Are you falling asleep easily? Do you stay asleep? Looking at your exercise levels, your medications, your supplements, your energy levels when you wake midday, in the afternoon, family history of disease. So that kicks off the consultation. That's just the very tip of it, asking all those questions. And then we go into a lot more around your gut and your digestive health and your bowels.
How important is it to be kind to yourself? I mean, I was dropping donuts when I talk to you because I know that you probably wouldn't eat a donut, but...
Are you kidding, Ken? That's my one treat once in a while. My
that's
favorite
a great point.
Sweet.
You should treat yourself, shouldn't you?
Yeah, and Mama's Donuts, I shouldn't be saying this on my show, but Mama's Donuts is just down the road.
Yeah. So it is important to look after yourself, first and foremost.
Absolutely.
And be mindful.
Yes. Yep.
Chill out, take a bit of time. I mean, if you had to say, take X amount of minutes out of your day just for you, what would be the minimum amount of minutes that you would suggest? 5 minutes, 10 minutes at least?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say if you can go for 20 to 30 minutes just for you, that would be great. And maybe that does mean waking up a bit early. Like this morning, I woke up a bit early because I knew I had a busy day. I was coming here.
Yeah.
My daughter has a doctor's appointment. I've got some work to do with clients. And I thought I'm going to get up a little bit early and just have a breather and have a cup of tea. And yeah.
Okay, you talked about gut health a bit earlier, and I wonder, stress and gut health, how do they interact?
Yeah, hugely impacted. So stress changes the dynamics in the gut. So you've got good and bad bacteria. You've got yeast in the gut. Stress can change, so there's less of the good guys, there's more of the bad guys, and that yeast that resides in everyone's gut starts to overgrow.
Yeah.
So when you get an overgrowth of yeast in the gut, stress being the biggest contributing factor to that, what it does is it just grows and proliferates, and then it starts to develop these stringy like legs, and it can actually drill holes in your gut wall.
Really? Wow.
And that's what they call, I don't know if you've heard the term leaky gut. That's from an overgrowth of yeast. So just stress alone can cause leaky gut, which can then cause bowel problems, constipation, stomach pain, bloating, cramping, bowel urgency, can completely control your life.
Absolutely. So what do we do? Is it a nutritional remedy? Do we change our eating habits, or easy to say, well, get rid of the stress? What's the answer?
Yeah, I can't say the answer in one sentence, to be honest. So it is a matter of, yes, changing your diet and getting rid of the yeast overgrowth. So usually that takes some time.
How do we do that, diet speaking?
The diet?
Yeah.
So one thing that yeast thrives off of is sugar. And usually people that are highly stressed are tired. And of course they reach out for sugar, for energy. So they're feeding that yeast. So it's kind of like a vicious cycle. It just keeps going and keeps getting worse until finally they come see me because they're sick of it.
Yes.
So the first thing you do is cut out sugar.
That's almost impossible to do, isn't it? Because if you say, let's cut out sugar, on one hand we say cut out sugar, but on the other hand we say eat more fruit and veggies, and fruit and veggies in many cases are loaded with natural sugar, fructose.
Yeah.
So sugar's sugar, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, not quite, but for this plan, if you're going to get rid of a yeast overgrowth caused by stress, you are cutting out known added sugars. So yes, no cookies or biscuits or ice cream, no fruit except for berries, which are low in sugar. So you can still have some sugar, the natural sugars, and a lot of vegetables and berries, but all the other sugars we're cutting out. Not forever.
No. How long does it take to come right?
Usually people are on the plan for a good 6 weeks. And then we slowly start to reintroduce certain foods. So it's not just sugar you're cutting out. You're cutting out yeast and gluten and dairy as well.
I heard on the radio a couple of days back that obesity is rife everywhere. Every country is suffering from obesity. People who come to see you in the main, is that what you're finding as well, a trend? People are getting fat?
I don't know if it's happening more so. I mean, I think, you see it everywhere, but I don't know if the obesity rates have increased or not. I think I'd probably look at, heart disease and stroke and that sort of thing, and diabetes is all related to obesity. So I'd probably look at those stats. Might be hard to measure the obesity rates.
Yeah. So, I guess someone comes to see you, like some fat old guy comes and says, "Help me, Heather." What is? Is it sort of boot camp diet or not?
No, I'm not.
From a nutritionist point of view, what are you going to say to someone who's overweight?
Absolutely not. I'm not about fad diets. I'm not about, let's put you on this keto diet, let's put you on the Atkins diet. Because in my opinion, yes, diets will work. What works for you might not work for someone else. But you lose the weight, and then people, one, they can develop, a bad relationship with food, saying I'm on a diet.
Yeah.
And two, it's not sustainable, and they put it back on.
Sure.
So I have so many people come to me and say, I've been on this diet, I lost all the weight. I've been on this diet, I lost all the weight, and guess what? It came back every time.
Why don't they stay on those diets though? I mean, that diet, I can't remember what it's called, but is it the Atkins diet where you just eat meat, bacon, eggs, chips? What a great diet that will be. I mean, I could stay on that diet. How come they lose weight on that diet?
Hello, heart disease. Hello, stroke. Hello, high blood pressure.
Is that the downside to those diets? I mean, because no one says that, do they?
No. And sometimes people take the diet and they do it the wrong way. Like the keto is similar to Atkins. And that's what they do, is they have a lot of cheese and they have a lot of bacon and sausages and processed meats, and they're not eating enough vegetables and fiber, and then they get constipated, and then their liver gets toxic, and so there's a right and wrong way to do that. But for me, I'm about long-term sustainable weight loss.
Sure.
So let's get the body healthy. Let's do this full thorough nutrition consultation that I do with you.
Yes.
Let's look at all these body systems. Let's see the areas that need support. Let's see if the body's acidic, if there's nutrient deficiencies. Let's do a dietary analysis and see where we need to correct the body. Let's make sure your blood sugars are balanced, your liver's supported, your thyroid's getting the nutrition it needs, and on and on. Get the body as healthy as possible, and when you do that, the body burns fat for fuel. It
Yeah.
accesses your fat stores. And guess what? You wake up and you have energy and you feel good.
How important is exercise in this equation? So we talked about food, we talked about gut health, but how important is exercise?
You're asking a fitness instructor,
Yes.
so
Yeah, I know what you're going to say.
yeah. I mean, I've always been into exercise. I'm one of those people, for me, that, you say you're stressed, what to do about it. I say go exercise because you get those feel-good endorphins, and I immediately feel better after I exercise. So that's always my go-to. For circulation, for mood, for weight loss, exercise is ideal. We're supposed to be moving our bodies, not be sitting at a desk all day. I know when I had a desk job, I couldn't wait to get out of it and start moving my legs.
Yeah.
I'm sure you feel the same.
Yeah, absolutely. So it gives you a bit of a high, doesn't it? I mean, I actually
Yeah.
do hate exercise, but it's when you get back
Yeah.
and you feel think, oh, I'm just so glad I did that.
Exactly.
But I mean,
yeah.
who wants to be out running in the cold? No one.
No.
But when you get back, you say, oh, I'm so glad I did that.
Yeah, and people say, well, how much exercise should I be doing?
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard to say, but my suggestion is always, if you can get out minimum three times a week, 5 times a week for 30 minutes, if you have one of those Fitbit watches or, heart rate monitors, try and get your heart rate up to 180 minus your age, because that puts you in like the fat burning zone, and that means you're pushing cardio-wise enough, to get to that point of those feel-good endorphins.
You often hear that magic number, 10,000 steps a day, but that's a hell of a lot of steps. Is 10,000 steps, is that too much for the average person?
I don't think so. I mean, think about like when we were hunters and gatherers. I bet we did
Yeah, well, we had to run
I
fast
don't
to
even
catch
know.
the meat, didn't we? Yeah, but
20,000
That's-
plus steps easily.
So 10,000 is not out of the way.
I don't think so. I think we're way too. We just sit around too much. And it's hard. Like I was always tired when I left my work at a desk job, and I
Yeah.
thought I actually don't want to go to the gym. As soon as I put on those clothes and those sneakers, bang, something switched in my head. So that if you lack motivation, bring your gym bag to work,
Yeah.
change at work, and then you're good to go.
When we exercise to get the most out of it, should we be puffed by the time we get home?
It's a good question. I think not so you can't catch your breath, but yes, I think, getting the heart rate going enough so that, you're breathing faster.
Because some people say some exercise is better than no exercise, and you can't argue with that. But I watch people walking, I think, are they really getting any benefit out of it? Because they're sort of strolling along and looking at the flowers and think,
You know what? I used to think that too, but since having my baby and going to a mom's group, and we walk together, and I think, it's just walking, and I try and pick up the pace because I like to walk a bit faster.
Yeah.
It actually is good. I think just being outside and walking it's a start.
socializing as well has got to be good for you.
Absolutely, yeah.
Just about out of time. Just remind our listeners we want to come and see you for some great nutritionist or nutritional advice. How do we do that?
So I'm currently, I'm still seeing clients with working from home, which seems to be working quite well, just like during COVID. So you can contact me on 027-812-5071. Happy to have a chat, talk about your health concerns, see if I can help you. Chances are I can. Or you can email me at heather@food4forlife.co.nz. I do work at a G's Pharmacy in Taradell.
Good on you, Heather. As always, my pleasure. You look after yourself. We'll talk to you same time, same place next time.
Thank you, Ken.